Sometimes it's good to know where you're going. Other times it's great to know where you've been. Lake Michigan is the sixth largest lake in the world. I had no intention at any point of running around that lake. That lake had an intention of me running around it. It chose me. I didn't choose that lake. It was a cunning temptress that put a bunch of steps into place that put me beside that lake. By that time in my life, some 10 years or more since that first 5K, I'd started to build a reputation for doing longer, depending on who you would ask, crazier events. And so a friend on sort of a dare said, well, if you're going to be in the Chicago area, you should go to Indiana Dunes. It's this place by Lake Michigan, and there's these 100-foot tall, again, I'm prone to exaggerate, so maybe they're 30 feet tall, or maybe I was just really in bad shape and it felt like they were 100 feet tall. I don't know, but they're these big sand mounds that you can't see from the road. They're behind the woods that go around quite a bit of the lake. But if someone dropped you there, you would feel like you were in the desert in the Middle East or something like that. It's amazing. And they said, run up and down those hills for an hour or two and get back to me. I'm not, and nor anymore do I really believe in words like fast and slow, but I'll just use them for the sake of the story. I'm not, as you can tell from my history, I didn't run the mile in high school. I didn't do cross country. I didn't run my first 17-minute 5K when I was a 12-year-old. There was just none of that for me. So my interest was to see just how long I could go in Indiana Dunes. How far into the hole could I go, and then could I hold on just a little bit longer, sort of this be your own guinea pig sort of mentality. And eventually completely shelled, or at least what I felt like at that time in my life was completely shelled. I just sat there at the bank of Lake Michigan looking across to the west, northwest at Chicago, and doing one of those, wow, Chicago looks so small, which immediately led me to, that is a giant, giant lake. And then she had me. And the next thought was, I wonder if I could run around it. And that was the start of it. Lake Michigan was a giant stretch for me. I had 3 years prior became the second person to run across my home state of Iowa, which is 292 miles. And I wanted to see if I could average a marathon a day for 11 straight days. And before that, I had never run more than one marathon in a row because who would? I can, for a lot of my life leading up to that, one marathon was a bucket list event for the year. You would train all year to go to Chicago or grandma's marathon, or if you had the stick to itiveness and maybe a little bit of natural ability, which I'm not sure I even believe that anymore because I've seen people qualify for Boston that I think did it out of sheer will. So fast forwarding, I was going to continue that model because it had become my shtick. And it, again, not Mother Nature, but Lake Michigan, rather, in just this perfect twist of numbers, I left the lake that day, went home to the computer, and it's 1,037 miles. Divide that by 26, you've got 40 marathons in 40 days. And I'm thinking, I'm so screwed. How could you not take on an adventure that lays out like that? It's perfect. It was cracked to the person and the challenges that I'd become, and it checked all the boxes. I didn't think I could do it. It scared the hell out of me. I was afraid to share it with anybody. All of these different what do I want to say, markers that I now use to decide if the adventure is worth taking on. And so there was no reason to believe I could make it. It was 11 marathons across Iowa, had taken me into places I never thought I would go, high and low. And now I was sitting on this thought, this challenge that would be over 3 times that. I can remember not long after I finished the event, I got this incredible gift from a friend, and she says, I can tell you now what I couldn't tell you then, which was, I was supporting you as a friend, as I always will, but I didn't think there was any way it was possible. And there was a lot of that in me too, and to this day, one of the great lessons I learned from that event, which is nothing great can be accomplished alone. When I finally got the stones to say this is going to be my next thing, and all of these things were done to raise money. So there was another, for people in the cancer fight, there was another level to this, which is you'd raised $3,000 or $4,000 running across Iowa, 292 miles. Your next event couldn't be running halfway across Iowa. I mean, you had to keep upping the ante because you were creating this brand, if you will, and so you had to go bigger. Not necessarily 3 times bigger, but that's just how it worked out. So this was the first time that I really opened up to say, I can't do this on my own. On so many levels, a marketing level, a support level. There were so many logistics and things that had to be put into place to pull this thing off. But we let the cat out of the bag, and 5 or 6 friends signed on to help just because they were those kind of people, and that's how it all started. 40 days, 40 marathons. Still, it's almost 7 years ago. Memorial Day we started. There's still a decent chunk of me that doesn't understand it, doesn't comprehend it. But there were so many instances. The first thing being just asking for help, and 7 people show up at a local restaurant to just say, "What do you need, man? We're here for you." So just right off the bat, ask the universe, state your intention, get out of the way. These people show up. And some of these were things that I'd already started to experience in previous adventures. But through these things, that sort of mindset and trusting in the process and that the universe favors all who dare was becoming more and more a part of who I was, who I am. And there had to be so much of that to take on something that was such a stretch for me. And Mother Nature would not disappoint. And it's been uncanny how often in every big challenge I've had that Mother Nature, or the adventure as a whole, Mother Nature being one of the big pieces of outdoor adventuring, has seemingly said, "All right, let's see if this kid really wants this, or if he's just a pretender." So we took off on what is still the hottest Memorial Day in the history of Chicago. It was real temperature, I think 103 on my buddy's bike thermometer, which granted we were going through the city and it's the asphalt and it's hot. It was 120 some degrees. And by the time we finished, I think 33 of the 40 days were over 90 degrees. And the humidity around that lake in the Midwest is always full on through that time of year. And I've been asked a lot of times, why that time of year? Why not the spring? Why not the fall? Maybe I'm a masochist. Maybe I don't think so, but I did want all the challenge. I didn't want 3/4 of it. I wanted to be in the fight when it would put me all the way down to where I could find the what if. If I could do Iowa 11 days, what if? If I could somehow get through 40 days, what if? If I could somehow get through 12 days, and that would be one day farther than I'd ever gone. Every day after that, that's 28 days, 29 days of what if. Would I have 3 mental breakdowns? Would I have 8? Would I have one big one like I did going across Iowa? But there was just so much to unpack even before that. We needed an RV. We needed someone to drive the RV. We needed someone to be able to cook. All of these sort of things. But at the same time, and I still adhere to it to this day, whether it be starting a new business, starting a family, whatever your big goal is, doing the Iditarod, doing the 40 days, doing run around, doing getting freaking sober, any of those things, like, don't choke it. Don't feel like you have to have everything figured out, because you won't do it. You'll paralyze yourself eventually. And I'd catch myself this all the time in earlier adventures, to where right at the start of the 40 days, between my great friend Jared, who drove the RV and cooked for the entirety of the route, and a couple other people that came along at different times, we had one rule, and that was we would not ever mention the 40th day until it was the 40th day. And you decide what your game is, what your goal is, what your big thing is. You state it. You identify critical steps, and then you just do it. And you realize that somewhere in the definition of adventure is something about uncertainty. And if that doesn't exist, if you're certain of every single outcome, then it's no freaking adventure at all. It's probably not even a challenge. There's no risk. There's no tight wire. There's no, will I fall? Will I fail? And so we identified 3 or 4 really key things. We need an RV. We need someone to drive the RV. We know where we're starting. We know what day we're starting. We know where our planned stop is every night. We need a certain amount of money to take care of the gas and the food. And from that, it was, we'll see in Chicago, I've got 6 months to train my ass off, and we'll figure the rest of it out.